So yeah, your book, it's not just about punk, and what else does it cover?
So it's not a book about punk as such, although that's the beginning of it. It kind of goes through the 90s as well, where I'd say I'd kind of go more into the post-punk, kind of more gothic phase. Certainly I became a biker at one point. I very much got into motorbikes and hanging out with the not as much hanging out with the Hells Angels, but certainly going to some of their events, seeing bands, say, at the biker bashes. I lived in a lot of squats. The way that I've written the book, you've got the early chapters about the music adverts, which kickstarts it, and then the different places I lived in. So each chapter, so I've got South Kensington, I've got Peckham, Tottenham, Dalston, Stoke Newington, Rotherhithe, all these places that I lived in, and the little adventures within each property, which, you know, throughout my life I've kind of recounted these little tales to people. And so basically it's a collection of these little stories and tales of adventures that happened. I had a lot of unusual jobs as well. The ones that really stuck out was sandwich making and toy testing, not at the same time. I probably ate a few sandwiches while I tested toys though. And you know, I was quite famous for gouging eyes out of teddy bears and put them in test tubes, and my friends did threaten to get the Soft Toy Liberation Front onto me, which of course never happened. And so, you know, I did a bit of cycle couriering for a while. I didn't seem to stay in many jobs for very long, perhaps because my true calling was as a tarot reader, and I'd always been psychic. I met Bill the Witch when I was trading up in Camden in Oddities Market, and going from a kind of repressed Catholic girl to a full-blown pagan witch was quite a leap, you know. So I had a lot of questions around that time, and it made me question my Catholic faith, my prior Catholic faith, made me question paganism. I'd like to think I've got a kind of a grip on both of them, swinging more towards the pagan side these days. Yeah, I continued to be in bands. I mean, by the time I was 30, I'd already been and gone with the Lost Cherries. You know, I went on after my 30s to join other bands. I'm currently in Flowers and the Dustbin. I previously was in the Pukes. I'm with Sarah Pink's Gravediggers now, which I never thought would happen. I never thought that I would be in bands in my 50s. You know, it was quite bizarre, really. One of my big inspirations there is probably Vice Versa from Boys and Girls, just kind of not giving a shit, and that's the thing I love about punk, is that kind of just do it. And what amazes me now is some sort of self-appointed critics from the punk world who think they can tell people what they can and can't do. You know, I've had criticism for maybe the way that I've sung, or maybe something else, and I thought, but it's punk. You know, it's not meant to be perfect, and what are you doing criticising? So it's funny how people kind of self-appoint themselves as, I don't know, critiques sometimes. But I don't know what else to book about. Good question. Boyfriends that have come and gone. A few that were just too horrific to include, to be honest, because even I can't get my head around that I actually allowed certain types into my life. But we all do it. It's all part of growing up, as the Lost Cherries would say. A few marriage proposals slipped through my fingers, and I probably, you know, that's probably not a bad thing. The end of the book is more finding a bit of more normality in my life, which has previously been lacking. Having my child, which is another book in itself along the way, another square peg in a round hole. Yeah, that's it really.